So one of the questions that we keep getting is, how can I participate in COP28, and who can participate in COP28? Who really goes for these meetings? And I absolutely understand, especially coming from young people who are wondering, decisions are being made on their behalf, and are they represented? How can they represent themselves and all that? COP28 is an annual meeting that's held every year to make sure that or to report or to bring together different parties and different stakeholders that are involved in climate action, involved or affected by climate action. And so that means there are a lot of people that are represented in that meeting. The challenge, however, over time has been that the process of accreditation, because it's a global meeting, it has a lot of interest, it's a very high level meeting, but it also brings in a lot of different stakeholders, from educationists to people in agriculture. All sectors are represented. So you can imagine how much interest there is when it comes to COP. And so what happens is that should you be interested in going for COP, you have to start that process sometimes even up to a year in advance. And most times you'd probably have to get in through an organization. You register your organization mostly as an NGO or through government delegation. But it's usually a process that you have to go through like any other major meeting where there has to be some form of accreditation. And especially for COP28, like I said, sometimes this process takes a year long. And so you may not be able to get into this particular one, but it's a great time to start your process when it comes to registering for the next one in next year. But whether you're going or not, there are avenues. And of course, this being Dubai, there would be definitely avenues of you being able to access the meetings through virtual means. And so I know that should you be anywhere in the world and you're interested in following the proceedings, it's a high stake meeting. And so there's always all sorts of reporting, all sorts of avenues and ways of making sure that people are able to keep abreast when it comes to the conversations that are going on. And even UNFCCC, which is the body that handles the COP meetings, also has live showcases when it comes to specific meetings. You'll probably miss out on the side events and other kinds of engagements that go on, because there are a lot of meetings that go on around the COP. And that's something that you'll probably be able to experience when you're there in person. But having said that, whether you're there or not, and this is just specifically to the young people, especially in Africa, there are ways that you can make sure that your voice is heard. And one of them is you could make sure that prior to these kinds of meetings, convene and bring yourselves together to be able to raise a specific area of concern and make sure that that is heard, whether by the governments in your countries or different bodies. The UN has representation across different countries. And so you can make sure that there's a way of championing your own agenda and making sure that agenda is captured in one way or the other ahead of the meetings. So there are ways of doing that. You can use social media. You could try a campaign. You know, there are many creatives that normally come up with beautiful campaigns to send a message to COP leaders. In many ways, it actually gets to them. So you could find a way of collaborating to come up with a social media sort of like message to make sure that your specific message, or maybe the reality of how you're affected by climate, gets to the decision makers that meet in those meetings. The other way that you could do that is make sure that you are involved through different bodies when it comes to your own countries. And this way you could be part of government delegations. Sometimes different governments make room for certain young people. And so obviously you won't wake up and say, I'd love to go to COP. You need to have been active addressing issues of climate change. And for sure, you'll definitely in one way or the other find your way there. But the last one, which is I believe one of the best ways to do that, is the idea of going to COP is just one way of making your voice heard. But the more important thing is to make sure that your activity, your initiative, your solution is actually making a difference on the ground. There's no way that you would have a significant impact on the ground and not be noticed by the right people. Many times we want to be at the front, you know, doing the big stuff, but not necessarily putting in the effort you know, at the ground or in our communities. So one of the ways of making sure that you have a seat at the table is create your own table. Create an avenue through which you cannot be ignored. There are amazing young people right now in Africa that have come up with amazing solutions, you know, in AI, solutions around agriculture, solutions around e-mobility. And those are the kind of people that are normally picked and said, you have to come and showcase your work, come and showcase your ideas. And I believe that that's a more sustainable way when people look for you rather than you in trying to insist to go for the sake of going sometimes, So as a young person in Africa, let's change our mentality from that perspective of trying to be out there and do something, because even scripture says that Gentiles will come to your light and kings to the brightness of your rising, and that there's no way your light shines and people will not notice. In a dark room, it will definitely be noticeable. So just some form of encouragement, whether you're going to COP or not, let's try and have significant impact on the ground. Use what you have, do what you have with, do something significant with the little that you have, and within no time, it will definitely be noticed and the right people will look for you, and perhaps come to where you are. And I believe that that's a concept that works. So whether you're going to COP, just make sure your voice is heard from wherever you are.